Hearing and seeing none. The first item we have is a discussion regarding the term limit ordinance for the district attorney. Let's see what we have here. We have the proposal in front of us. And what I wanted to do with this is the same thing that we did last time, which was review it, discuss it, and if there's any changes or amendments that we need to do that, and then we can put those changes and make those amendments tomorrow, correct? Is there any discussion from anyone? Go ahead, Mr. Cusick.
Yeah, I guess my question was, for the other offices, we began them 2024, but this one is 2028. Was there any reason why we made it 2028 rather than 2024?
Mine says 2028 question mark, so I assume that that's because of the question.
It has to be 2028.
Because?
Because of the timing of the elections.
Which is now.
Okay, so we can't get it on the next ballot, which means there will be a DA elected this year without this being on the ballot.
I thought we could get it on the ballot if we,
No, we're outside of the deadline that they would need for publication.
I thought it was August 1st.
8th.
This is July 25th.
Right.
Let's say July, tomorrow will be July 20th.
I apologize to be the one to address you about this, but it has to do with the enactment date. So even once it's passed, it's going to need 30 days to, even if the executive, for example, signed it the next day, we still wouldn't have 30 days for it to be enacted by the August 8th deadline.
Okay,
So therefore, it will only apply to the DA in 2028.
okay, well then that answers that question
Okay.
and removes that question mark. Any other questions? I wanted to address the idea of the amount of terms, the term limit time. I didn't necessarily expect it to be an only 2 4-year terms. And my suggestion is that it's at least 3 or 4. Because I think the position of DA is very different than the other positions that we've discussed. I did do a little research, and I think that the way the job is structured, that they might need more than 8 years to conduct the business of that office. So I would suggest a minimum of 3 terms or a possibility of 4 terms. But that, again, is up to your discretion and decision.
Is that something we make a decision on now, or we wait till tomorrow?
I would like to have some of the discussion now so that we don't belabor it tomorrow. But if you want to wait till tomorrow and you want to think about it, that's fine.
I don't have a problem with a 3-year term. That gets them 12 years.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I believe especially this position, I'm hesitant. The others I voted no because of local. I'm not necessarily a believer in term limits at the local level. I've often talked about the money end of it. That's what bothers me. But what you've just talked about is actually one of the reasons I have a difficult time with this. I think for the district attorney, that is a very unique position. I see it as a chief law enforcement officer. I don't know of any county that has term limits for their DAs. There may be. I don't think it's a great idea because I think you do have to grow into that job. I think, no offense to anybody in this room, I think most of us that get elected, you grow into it, but I don't think it has the impact of the DA. If this were the Northampton County of 40 years ago, you might be able to flip it every 8 years or so, but it's just changed so much. The valley has changed. The crime is you only have to talk to the police or to the district attorney's office, some of the ADAs. It's a whole different situation, severity. Look at your own juvenile justice system. At one time, the toughest thing there was truants, and now they'd be thrilled to get truants. So I just wanted to say up front. I mean, I want to be upfront about it because I'm not going to support any term limits, just like with the other thing. So that's all I wanted to say.
Nobody has any thoughts?
Well, I'll just add to the discussion, the Attorney General at the state level is limited to 2 terms. So there is some precedent for a law enforcement official like that to be under the auspices of a term limit. So I think this would be consistent with the executive and the controller. So I'd be supportive of keeping it at the 2 4-year terms.
My thought was that judges' first term is 10 years, and that the kind of education and background, like most of these other positions don't require that level. Even the controller doesn't have to have a finance degree, as you saw today in these interviews. But this is a very specific kind of job that does require a degree and has specific duties, so judges as well. So judges get at least 10 years, so I figured if they would have at least an equivalency to a judge. And they would have, 8 is too short, 3 is just 2 years over that. But judges have the right to be retained, and most often they are if they stay. The other thought in terms of having a term limit is the idea that, Mr. Morganelli and Mr. Martin are unique people. I don't know if anybody's been in office as long as either one of those have been. There are counties that do have term limits, and they are 2 4-year terms, but the kind of person that might gravitate to this office in the future is somebody who might practice a little bit, then might move to that, and then might want to move up. So it gives them an opportunity to kind of advance their career and not stay somewhere that long.
Chris, how long was Charlie Spaziani DA?
I think he was DA for 8 years. And he defeated Bernie O'Hare, Senior.
Thought there needed to be. So, you want to leave it as it is and discuss it tomorrow night, or nobody else has any thoughts about it?
Lori, an amendment can't be made to it until tomorrow night.
I understand that, but we discussed the
right.
others at this time, so I just wanted to see.
I
Because I'm
ju-
not going to bother making an amendment if everybody's I don't want to waste time. I think we have a lot to do. And if people I'm fine with the 2 years, then I defer to this committee, and that's why I hold the meeting.
JP, were you saying something?
I'm kind of torn on the subject. When you first told me about the concept of 3 or 4 terms, I was understanding of the differentiation between, the position and the position to be ruled on. But if the state AG is for 2 4-year terms, and, I don't think I have a good enough reason to justify changing it at this point. But I'm kind of mulling it over myself.
I still would like to see 3 instead of 2. That's just my opinion. Because it is a specialty.
I have a question for the solicitor. We were told that this would not go on as a referendum if it passes until earliest would be spring, because it's too late right now. I mean, it could be too late, because if the executive waited and then vetoed it, we'd have to vote on it again. So we're up against the deadline, am I correct?
I've had that discussion with Aileen. Her analysis that she gave you is correct. It would not be effective for 30 days after enactment.
Thank you. So I guess my question would be, and I've already said my thoughts about it, but I just want to be clear, I want us as a body to be clear, somebody's going to be elected in November and sworn in January 1st. How would this affect them if in fact a 2-term limit was passed?
The ordinance speaks for itself. It would become effective in 2028.
Oh,
They
I'm
could
sorry.
serve 2
Okay.
terms.
So, but that person then they'd serve 25, 24,
They
25, 6, 7, 28. So they could serve, if it were 2, they could still serve 3 terms because it wouldn't apply to this first term. All right, I just want to be clear, very clear on those things, so that we're getting into term limits.
I would also say on my factual analysis, both of the candidates are in their mid-60s. They may not live that long.
Wow,
Well,
I have nothing else.
fairness to both of the candidates, I did speak with both of them in my research as well as some previous office holders, and, you know, they all had some thoughts on this. Most of them did not plan to be here 20 or 30 years.
But let me ask you, Lori, if I may, since you did talk to them, and I didn't, I'll be honest, would they come and offer their opinions? I mean,
They
we're
could,
an
I didn't
independent
ask
body,
them
but.
to, but they could, and now that I'm hearing that there's no expediency in this, I don't know if we actually do have to vote. If you want to take some time and think about this, it's,
I
we
would just
could
like to
ask them
hear from,
come, but
well, that's true. I
I
mean,
mean,
whoever gets elected, we could hear
I
from that
think a
person.
lot of people balked at the idea of a 2 4-year term. When I said, what if it were more, they went, oh, then that would be okay. And I think they just felt the nature of the job, the management of the office, the kinds of cases that they have to see, might have some longer term needs, and so they thought extending the term was beneficial. Nobody asked for 30 years. You know, nobody said, oh, no, it should be perpetuity. But when I said, well, I'm thinking about a little bit longer, nobody had a problem with that.
Yeah, I think Judge Morganelli was an exception. I don't even know, I know Mr. Attorney Martin is retiring, but I don't know how many terms he served. He served quite a few terms too, so. All right, you answered my question. Thank you.
Okay, so then it's on tomorrow night, so we can discuss it or table it at that time. Thank you. Next, we have a discussion regarding the Conservation District's Memorandum of Understanding. This was brought. Oh, I'm sorry, did you,
Welcome to the audio conferencing center.
was she on the whole time?
We're going to find
Now
out.
joining the meeting as a leader.
Do you want me to go back to the list?
Does she want to say something?
Tara?
Yes, I'm on. I just want to listen, okay? Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, so she didn't want to comment on the last issue?
You want to talk about the last issue?
I didn't hear it because I wasn't allowed in, which is why I texted Kevin to ask for somebody to pick up the line so I could listen to the meeting. Thank you.
Lori,
So it'll be discussed again tomorrow night, since we didn't have any action on it tonight. She's gonna listen tomorrow night, she said. All right, well, thank you. So, do you wanna start with this as a member of the district? Or, Mr. Gafredo brought this to my attention, so I'll let him start, and then we'll take it from there.
First, I'd like to apologize. I don't think I've ever had a personnel finance meeting go as long as that one did. I told you guys to come at 4:30, it's 6:15, so thank you for being patient. As the liaison to the Conservation District, it was brought to my attention that the Conservation District was at a disadvantage, I guess, for choice of words. Basically, there's a number of things that they are disqualified from even applying for because of the way that they're currently set up in their current MOU. So they presented me with the MOU. We saw that it's up to county council and their board of directors to alter or abolish their current MOU at any given time. They already voted to alter or abolish. It's on us to hear their presentation as to what their difficulties are, their challenges, and how we can remedy them, make them better so they can get back to doing what they do best. So, Mr. Mauser, if you don't mind.
John, thank you very much. I'm going to be sort of personal with you, okay? We've been talking quite a bit about issues
Sir,
facing.
do me a
You have to
favor.
stay,
Make sure you stay close to the mic, because we are recording, we want to hear you.
Okay, Lori, this happened about 2 years ago when I talked about the Karst Geology Committee. I believe Linda had to tell me 6 times to get to the mic. Linda, I'm going to stay plastered right here. Okay, I apologize. Okay, my name is John Mauser. I'm the treasurer of the Northampton County Conservation District. We would like to introduce you to the chairman and some of our DEP representatives. They're going to say a few words, and then I'm going to spend some time going over some issues, okay? And we're going to play Let's Make a Deal, okay? And we'll talk about why we want to play Let's Make a Deal in a few moments. Jeffrey, you want to give an introduction to the Conservation District?
Thank you for having us, all the council members, and nothing to be apologizing for. It's actually quite the education to listen to all this.
Could you just say your name, sir?
Yes, Jeffrey Kiefer, Keifer. Mr. Spinoni, Dad sends his regards from back in the day.
Is there anyone who doesn't know Chris Spadoni in this county?
He was our solicitor, he was our lawyer at Lower Mount Bethel Township. So, and yes, he's still able to cheat the Undertaker, Chris. Anyway, my name is Jeffrey Kiefer. I'm the chairman of the Conservation District. I've been a board member for several, I don't even know how long I've actually been, for quite a while, but our district is made up of the directors of 4 farmer directors, 2 public directors, and 1 county council, which is Mr. Garfredo at the moment. The farmer directors are Brian Fulmer, Joel Geiger, Richard DeFebo, myself. Public directors are Ted Verisek and John Mauser, and as well as John there for the county council. I'm here just representing our board, trying to improve for our MOU and to do better for the county and the residents and all that we need to do. I'll start by try to speed a little bit for you, just the same, but referencing the paragraph 3 on page 1 of 8 through the current MOU, just a presentation of it. The Northampton County Conservation District was organized at the request of county residents. The county was declared a district by the Board of County Commissioners on December 8th, 1961, quite a long time ago. According to provisions of the Soil Conservation Law of 1945, Act 217 of the General Assembly was amended. This act gives district board independent powers to provide service, employ, and manage staff, charge fees for service, own and manage properties, and authorize Commonwealth agencies, including counties, to cooperate with districts in carrying out the programs. The staff that we have for the district, we have a county manager, there's 1 clerical specialist, there's 1 ag specialist, 4 conservation specialists. They do general work and stuff. There's 1 102 program coordinator and 1 watershed/ag tech also. Yes, go ahead.
Real quick, you just named 9 positions. How many of those are full-time positions?
All of them, yes. As previous meetings, we used to have an engineer. He did leave in February, I believe it was. So yes, we are currently without an engineer. Within that, I'll turn this over to Caitlin. This is our regional DEP rep. She can go over some more things and we'll move along. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kate Skibble. I'm just going to go over something real quick.
I'm sorry,
Can you say
can
your
you
last
spell
name
your
again?
last name?
Caitlin Skibble, Skibiel. I married into that one, so it's a toughie. So DEP provides support to conservation districts through an MOU between DEP and the State Conservation Commission, or SCC as they're known. When a conservation district is created, it constitutes a public body exercising public powers of the Commonwealth. As an agency thereof, and the board of directors of the district shall be the governing body of the district. As such, the board has a fiduciary responsibility to the district and the residents of the county. In accordance with provisions of the PA Conservation District Law, or Act 217, the Northampton County Conservation District is composed of a board of directors appointed by the county governing body from nominations received from designated nominating organizations. The Northampton County Conservation District serves to administer soil and water conservation and other natural resource programs within the county as authorized by county, state, and federal laws, regulations, and/or guidelines. And now I'll hand this over to the district treasurer, John Mauser, and he'll explain some of the concerns that the board of directors has had with the current structure of the district and the MOU.
Thank you, Caitlin. Let's see, I'm going to start this PowerPoint. And I said we're going to play Let's Make a Deal. And the Conservation District has MOUs, verbal agreements with a lot of different agencies. The Dirt and Gravel Low Volume Road Group with the state. We have MOUs with DEP, obviously. We have MOUs with Lehigh County Conservation District. So we have a lot of MOUs. The organization functions as a partnership, okay? We partner with the Natural Resource Conservation Service. In order to get anything done environmentally for good conservation for water and soil, you have to have a big partnership. All the partners are equal, okay? I chaired a watershed organization. It was very important that I worked with Natural Resource Conservation Service, part of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. If they had a project, they would come to me and they say, John, can you dig up $5,000 for this farmer? Because we can only give a certain amount of money to him. And I would dig up some money. I was a grant writer. Okay, I managed grants, 600,000, 1.3 million. I gave out grants through the National Park Service, federal dollars to Bangor Area School District, Warren County, New Jersey, Peaburg, Upper Mount Bethel Township, Knowlton Township. So I have experiences with grants and I have experiences with partnerships. And what we're going to talk about right now is our current partnership with Northampton County. Okay, John, your name is on this slide. So you are free to interrupt me anytime you want to interject anything. You got that? Okay, as we move along here, we're going to look at this memorandum of understanding. And Chris, you were kind enough to pass this out to everyone, am I correct? Thank you, I appreciate that. Page 8 of the current 8-page current MOU, there's a line in there that's very important. The memorandum of understanding shall be reviewed every 5 years, or as needed, and can be revised by a majority vote of each party. That's the District Board of Directors and the County Council. So what I'm hoping to do is to present some issues to you that we can discuss now and later. Was it 7 of 8, Chris? Did I misnumber that?
You're correct.
Okay, no problem. Now, this was signed in 2020. MOUs go for certain periods of time. And an MOU is not a contract, very important, okay? It's sort of like a gentleman's agreement, one step beyond that. Now, that's in my mind, and I could be wrong. Now, as we look at this next slide here, page 1 of 8, I'm just going to read the bottom line because it's been a long night. I'm tired. You've been here a long time. Provide the highest degree of mutual understanding and cooperation. That's what the object of a memorandum of understanding should be. Now, when we look under general coordination, or cooperation, excuse me, 1.1, as part of the county's Department of Administration, we're not part of the county's administration. We are a separate Commonwealth agency. Very important to understand that. Very important to understand that. 1.5, the county will provide financial information reports to the district on an as-needed basis to be able to meet state reporting deadlines. It's in the MOU. Very important one. Jeffrey told you about this slide. We're going to move right along here because it is late. Now, I want to tell you about some of the good things that the district does. Okay, I came before this county council a number of years ago to ask you to form a karst geology advisory council. You did that. The conservation took that permission and we worked with the state DEP, the state DCNR, PennDOT. You know, we worked with PennDOT. They come to meetings in the Lehigh Valley to address karst geology issues. We're hoping to make a difference. Now, this is some of the things a conservation district can do for you. We partner with everyone. I'm looking to improve the partnership we have with the county. We're not at war. We're here to say to you, let's work together to bring the best conditions, funding for our residents, agricultural community, business community, and as a township supervisor, this is a biggie for me, our municipalities. Okay, we get reports from the state. They review what we do. This report was issued August 30th, 2022 to the Northampton County Conservation District. And that road right there, Chris, is Upper Mud Run Road in Lower Mount Bethel Township. The Conservation District brought in funding of over $100,000 to help our community. Now, unfortunately, after the flooding this past weekend, we had 2 more road collapses on Upper Mud Run Road. Okay? And I am pleased that County Executive Lamont did come to Lower Mount Bethel Townships and other areas that were flooded. We need his support, okay? It's important that we all work together. Now, if you would desire a full 19-page report, you can email me, email Dion Campbell, who is the district manager, and we'll provide that report for you to read in its entirety. Am I going too slow, or you need me to speed up, Cousin John? Okay, now, here's the big thing. I'm telling you, the Conservation District is bringing money to Northampton County. That's the bottom line. I'm getting too aggressive, I'll mellow it out. Okay, very important. Hemlock Drive, Upper Mount Bethel Township. They got $57,289. And that doesn't sound a lot when you have a county budget. But when you talk about a township, you're getting $50,000 for roads. That is phenomenal. My township, it's Upper Mud Run. You know, the state puts out reports, we put out reports, I make mistakes, we all make mistakes. Upper Mud Run Road, $101,000. We needed it. Our budget for the year is a little over $1 million. That would have been 10% of our budget right there. The district brought that money to our township. Very important. Reading Drive, who has Lower Saucon Township? This could, you do. Okay, Madam Chairman, this could be $262,000 going to Lower Saucon Township from the state, dirt and gravel, low volume road. Now, we've had successes, but there've been some issues. Okay, there's numbers there, you can read that, I get carried away here. There's a red line down there. I'm going to be talking to you about how we want the current MOU modified, revised, okay? We have to meet state reporting requirements. Number 1, they have to be on time. Number 2, we have to submit documentation for where the money is, what is our total, what's our balance. The best way to do that is with a dedicated bank account. DEP wants their grantees to have a dedicated account that pays interest set up for those funds.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question real quick?
Go ahead, Mr. Heckman.
It's clarification.
Go ahead.
You have a timely manner in Northumberland County. That's supposed to be Northampton.
Oh, you are correct. And if you heard me say a few moments ago, the state, we make mistakes, okay? But it's Northampton.
Good catch, go ahead,
No, I just wanted to be very clear.
No, that's good.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Heckman. Okay, now, we got criticized for several things. Our deficiencies, what were they? Handling of the funds,
Could I stop you? What's QA/QC?
quality assurance, that's Quality Assurance Quality Control Board.
And who administers that?
That, we have a QA/QC committee at the district, and then there's a state QA/QC where they come in. I'm going to back up a slide if I can find.
John, partners over there look like they
Oh, excuse me.
You gotta talk to the mic, please.
Okay, sure. I just want to understand who we're.
I'm Karen Books from DEP. The QAQC is the quality assurance, quality control evaluation that the State Conservation Commission does on our dirt and gravel low-volume road program.
So this is the report.
This is your report.
The State Conservation Commission report for, that when they evaluate conservation districts every 3 years on this program.
Do you want to give him a break and present this, or do you present this?
No, he's okay.
Since it's your report.
They get to laugh at me. Okay, thank you, Karen. And they were all told they can interrupt me at any times. Okay?
She might need your spelling later, but we'll get it.
Okay, we got it. Now, there's a question here about lack of staff time. We have wonderful people working for the Conservation District. Some of them have been there over 20 years. We have several people trained in the dirt and gravel low-volume road program. They're trained by the state. They work with the communities. Part of the report is they say to these two employees, how many hours are you out working on the dirt and gravel low-volume road program? Embarrassed to say, it's like 8 to 12 hours a month. Now, you might say, big whoop, they're getting the job done, right? Well, here's part of the issue. And I lost my train of thought already. Good? Okay. I'm just going to drop back one moment here. And the part of the issue is the townships need help. There are a lot of low-volume roads within Northampton County that are eligible for funding. Okay? The funding coming from the state can be significant. It could be 100, 200, or more thousands of dollars per year coming into our community. It's important for us, the state wants this program to succeed. They're recommending that we have more staff time getting projects and bringing those dollars to Northampton County. There are some other issues. It deals with the finances, okay? You have to be in an interest-bearing account. Back in 2021, the low-volume road had more money than the dirt and gravel. Both accounts received $133 in interest, even though there were different sums of money. This report was issued in, I forget the date. Do you remember the date? Do I have to back up?
It was last summer.
Last year. Okay. Guess what? This year, in 2022, no interest was put in either of those counts. We were in violation of our agreement that the funds be in an interest-bearing account. Now, the county did make up for it. They put the funds in around April of 2023. Financial reports are due every quarter, December 31st, okay? March 31st. We have to meet those guidelines. We need printed record. Yes, Mr. Myers.
You're saying interest-bearing accounts. When did that go into effect? What year?
That was with the beginning of this program. If you're 1997. Shane, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, my name is Shane Kleiner, Kleiner is the last name. I've worked with the program since its inception as a conservation district when I was in that position. 97 was the start of the program. At that point, those requirements for interest-bearing accounts were there. At that point, it was just the dirt and gravel road program. Since then, it's been split into two separate programs, and each one of those programs have to have their own account with an interest-bearing. And that's how we were able to count. Because any funds associated with that money have to be put into that program, back into that program. That's part of the requirements under the law. Okay.
Shane, is that the same for DEP Growing Greener grants?
Growing Greener grants, if they, the Growing Greener grants that the districts would be able to get would be interest-bearing accounts as long as there is working capital given to that organization on the upfront. We're allowed to give 20% of the working capital of the total grant amount upfront to be able to upfront monies to get those projects done. And then they're reimbursed up to a 65%. And then from there on, they are responsible to spend those monies down. So if they have working capital, they would need to have a separate interest-bearing account. That is correct. If they don't get that working capital, it's just a reimbursement process, okay?
Thank you.
Carrie, good question, thank you. Okay, so we have concerns about what's happening with the finances, okay? Now, this is the crucial part here, guys. Reports provided by the county financial software round to the dollar, which contributed to some of the discrepancies. We also had an arithmetic error when interest was subtracted from one account in April of this year, and extra interest was put in another account. The district manager has to submit reports in a timely fashion. We've had to correct these, okay? It puts us in a bad position. As a person who managed grants, I want my grantees to submit the proper paperwork on time so I can do my job. Overall, Northampton Conservation's district's dirt and gravel low-volume road finances need improvements. Now, why am I concerned about this? Well, from 2015 to 2021, $1.3 million came in here to help our local municipalities. And right now, Lower Mount Bethel Township needs several hundred thousands of dollars. I want to make sure we're working in this program. Now, right now, the current MOU sort of looks like that bridge, that picture, okay? I'm looking at Northampton County Council to be those little metal straps there, if you can see them. Is that a county bridge? That's a township bridge for Lower Saucon.
Oh, here we go.
Now, okay, now look, I do have to
At
give,
my house, probably.
are you near Reading Drive?
No, on the other side.
Okay. Now, looking to Northampton County Council to help us hold this MOU together. We need to improve the partnership. I'm willing to sit down and talk with anyone, anytime, any place. That's the bottom line. The only thing I do is make compromises.
So, Mr. Mauser, succinctly, what exactly is not happening that you would like to see different on the MOU? Because, like, I'm hearing the finances, I'm hearing the interest bearing, I'm hearing some potential.
Okay, let me
staff
clarify.
concerns.
Yes,
Is
there
that-
is, yeah. The main
Those are the
issues,
three things
I'm going to ruin my whole speech, but I'm going to tell you now.
Sorry.
The main issues are finances, how they're recorded, staffing issues. Those are the two main issues. Now, you have to remember, we are an independent state agency. Excuse me if I sound pissed off. Okay, moving right along here. Highly unacceptable, John, I know. Hopefully you'll replace me as treasurer. Okay, on May 10th, we had a meeting with the county administration. We asked them, can we have current fund balances each month? Can we have interest for each fund regularly? Can we have fund balances to the nearest cent? Number 4, you won't understand, so let's not even bother with that. Now, here we are, May 5th, after the March 31st deadline. The district manager was given a number. Wrong number. They were given the number by the county financial department. Okay? When you submit a grant, you have to turn in either a bank statement or a statement that matches the records the state has on hand. We didn't do that. Didn't make it. What are we doing to try and get around that? That's why I'm here tonight. The district has acquired a federal EIN number. We're in the process of getting a state vendor number. I'm not going to explain what that means. Chris might want to talk to you about it later on. The district is arranging for, well, not arranging, we now have a checking and interest-bearing account. Why? Because when we make these reports, I want to have quick access to a bank statement that I can submit to the state and meet my timelines. And here's the big reason why I'm up here. When I said we got to play let's make a deal, in the conservation environmental field, that's the only way you're going to get ahead. That's the only way. If we each try and do one little thing, we're not going to make it. We're not going to make it. I had NRCS come for me. They needed money. I found money for them. Okay? We went to DEP, And this is what I expect the Conservation District to do. They have a qualified watershed specialist. They can be applying for DEP grants through Growing Greener for several hundreds of thousands of dollars to bring to Northampton County. Except that DEP money, they'll give you money up front, has to be in an interest-bearing account that we can get quick financial records that are easy to read. Number 4, this is where we're going to be going eventually. The district should manage all district program funds. Not tonight, maybe not next month. But that's where we have to head if we're able to act in a timely fashion. When Stockertown or another community says, John, we need some funding, we can be giving mini grants to farmers, residents, municipalities. We have funds in the Act 13 account, over $400,000, that we can use for mini grants to the community. We asked the county, the board voted, and said, we want the Act 13 funds. And that's why I'm here tonight. I got a response.
I have a question.
You certainly may, Mr. Heckman.
Chairwoman also likes to weigh in. When you
Thank
say,
you for recognizing.
we asked the county, who specifically do you go through when you
The
ask?
district board asked the district manager to write a letter to the county admin requesting our Act 13 funds, which is state monies, by the way.
I'm guessing that would be Mr. Dertinger?
That is correct.
All right, I just wanted to know.
I was told not to use names tonight.
So wait.
I can.
Can I just interrupt you for a minute? So Mr. Campbell is the manager, correct? So
Yes.
Is it wrong to use the term liaison between you and the
That's
county?
correct. We're going to look at another
the
little
correct
paragraph in a moment.
Relationship?
Okay?
So he manages and then he reports and that's been the.
Yeah, we'll
communication.
talk about that in a second.
Well, again, I want council to have an opportunity to ask questions. And I guess I have a few questions. Anybody else or?
Okay, do you have questions on what I've said up to this point?
I kind of do, because
Go
you're
ahead.
laying out a lot of information, and so part of my question, and it might be more for you ladies from DEP, like, so how do we compare to other counties? Do other counties already have this process in place, or? Yeah, is that?
I was
Do you
going to
know-
present after John
Oh, I'm
finished, but
sorry,
if you'd
well,
like.
because in the interest of time, and I don't want to cut you off, I want to, because you're saying a lot of stuff, and I don't live in this conservation world, so he's saying, well, this has to happen, and this, but, so are other counties set up the same way that we are? Are they set up differently? Because you're doing the reports on quality control, correct?
Well, I don't work in that program specifically, but yeah, the department does. Again, my name's Karen Books, Books, and I'm an environmental group manager with DEP Central Office, Conservation District Support Section. So there's 66 conservation districts across the state, and each is structured a little bit differently. All districts are created as a separate entity from the county. Some, when they're formed a close relationship with the county government, usually in the form of employing staff. Currently, there are 29 conservation districts that have employees that are county employees. There are 34 conservation districts that the employees are employed by the district board itself. And then we have 3 conservation districts that are some combination of that. So they may have some employees that are county employees and some that are district employees. We have one currently that is transitioning. In 2018, they signed a new MOU with their county where all new employees that are hired as vacancies come up on the staff, all those vacancies are being filled as district employees rather than county employees to have a transition to all employees eventually being district employees. So in recent years, we've had several districts make a transition to independent from the county. There have been 6 districts that have transitioned in the past 12 years, and we have one, Schuylkill County, that is exploring that possibility at this time. So that's, like I said, districts are all laid out differently. And same thing with the finances. There are a lot of different ways that the districts manage the finances. There are a few that the counties do manage the majority of the funds or all of the funds. There are others that manage all of their own funds.
Do you know what the breakdown is of that?
I do not have specific details of that.
Are there consequences for getting these sort of negative marks on a report?
Depending on, typically on the QAQCs, they will come back in 6 months or a year and reevaluate if a district receives a needs improvement status. And if they don't improve within a certain period of time, they could suspend the program or reduce funding. I don't believe there were any findings related to inappropriate.
No.
Oh, okay. Implementation of projects, so the projects themselves have been being implemented properly, and that's always important to us, that the funds are being spent properly on the ground. The biggest issues here have been the reporting and not having accurate numbers for the quarterly reports that are required.
Madam Chair. Act 13, you've thrown it out a few times. You might explain what that is?
Act 13 of 2011 is the Unconventional Gas Well Act, which it's the impact fee for unconventional gas wells. Conservation districts receive funding through that. And each year, the conservation districts receive a block grant from the PUC. In the this year's block grant was around $70,000. It's been going up slightly every year since that was, since it started in 2012.
Any other questions?
I have a question. Oh, and it might be for somebody, I don't know. I just try, in my mind, cutting to the chase here. I get the sense that the board wants to manage its own funds as opposed to the county fiscal department, and you don't feel you have enough staff because you mentioned staff time enough. a lot. So are those
That's the
two?
issue we're going to talk, that's the two big ones.
All right, well, that's usually
Okay.
the answer to all your questions is money generally. I've learned that, so. Okay, thank you.
Who
Thank
does
you,
the
Karen.
hiring?
Whoops. Go ahead, Karen.
I'm sorry?
Who does the hiring of staff? Because you mentioned you have.
County admin. Admin does, especially
Who does? I'm sorry.
HR, yes.
We have,
Pretty well it goes through Mr.
So
Derringer, I
when they,
believe.
so again, tell me the process. So they have a need, they put it through Dion to you, and then it gets written up and it goes back to us if it's filled, correct? Or it doesn't have to if it's not a new position, right? So if it's existing, it just stays the same. So is this department having the same kind of issues that we're seeing in other departments across the state in terms of ability to fill the positions, or people not applying, or difficulties with salaries? Because everybody's having job-filling issues.
Go ahead.
Okay. The most recent position was the engineer position, and I know that the county has had issues filling that position due to the salary requirement. The board acted at their meeting last week or in June, to suspend their post-construction stormwater delegation agreement with the department because they don't have adequate staff to run that program. So
That's not accurate. We just hired 2 conservation specialists.
I was referring to the engineer position, but yeah, they have hired ag staff.
Correct. Mr. Dertinger's right. They hired a 102 tech, or a conservation specialist, and a ag tech. But the engineer is still outstanding. And if we had our own abilities, we could actually put on more staff and finance them and pay for it to do more for the county and more of these programs and these grants.
Do you think you have the money in your budget to do so?
Let me talk about the money in a moment,
Yeah,
okay, Jeffrey?
The present moment, probably, I'm not sure.
Yes.
But in the future, yes. If we had our way, yes.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. We have requirements on the mic. Did you want to jump in here? Okay, go ahead.
I know he's gonna get it.
Okay.
Go ahead, John.
Okay, no problem. Okay, personnel matters. 2.1, management. First sentence, district manager reports directly to the director of administration. We have a board, we have to make decisions. We are responsible for all that money. If that money is not handled properly, guess who's responsible? Not Northampton County, the district board, okay? So the district manager reports directly to the director of administration. I think that's fine for personnel matters because they're all county employees. But as far as for workings of the district manager should be talking to the board that's making the decisions. Number 2.4, you were talking about this. Any change of different district staff, the second line, has to be approved by the county. We're working with individuals with a specific experience that they bring to the job. We know what the requirements are. The district may participate in the interview process and jointly with county select the appropriate candidate. Unwilling to talk and discuss that, that's fine. Now, what's our current dilemma? The county has a cap of around 75,000 for an engineer. We've had no candidates. Karen talked a little bit about the PCSM portion of the delegation agreement that we had to suspend. That engineer, when he's here with our karst geology problems, is able to know local conditions, and this is post-construction stormwater management. Talk to Stockertown, Tatamy, stormwater, sinkholes. That engineer is needed. The techs that review all the permits, and boy, are we getting permits, okay, for warehouses and other things. The techs always have questions. These plans are becoming more complicated where they need to converse with an engineer. They come up to me, they say, John, I miss the engineer. Well, we were told we can put it in the budget, okay? But I need you to the main thing you need to know is we are supposed to be an independent Commonwealth agency.
So let me stop and ask you this question.
Yes.
MOU that we have here, and I was part of council at that time, was done in, do I have it right?
2020.
2020? So prior MOU, was it constructed the same way? The same
similar.
verbiage of who was reporting
It
to, or
was-
was it changed in this MOU?
You know what? I don't know the exact answer, Lori. Karen, I don't know if you know, but it's
I guess we can
irrelevant
look
at
it
this
up.
point, okay? It might have been working in the past, a similar MOU. Currently, with what we're trying to do, maintain the dirt and gravel low volume road. Make sure we're getting Growing Greener grants. A little watershed organization that I ran, we were getting $600,000 from DEP. I said that before. A little dinky watershed association. We have experienced people at the district that should be able to get 500, 800, $1 million in granting from DEP and other agencies.
Madam, can I ask a question?
Yes, and I think Mr. Cusick had his hand on the mic, but.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, John, and I want you to listen to my question because I don't want to, I don't, two parts. Try to be concise. I understand what you're saying regarding authorities, boards, commissions. Myself and Mr. Spadoni serve on a board, an authority. I've served on a redevelopment authority for decades. I've chaired it. It was always, like many of those things, it was autonomous, but worked in worked in consultation with the government. Lately, and I think Lehigh County, or Allentown has had this experience, lately, it seems like the governments involved are more or less taking over the authorities or some of these boards. So I guess with that prelude, I would ask you, are you saying to us essentially that, one, you would like control of your own finances and full responsibility for the use of those finances? And also then if there are any problems or deficits? And two, you want to be completely independent on hiring?
I didn't say completely independent upon hiring. What I'm hoping for is a working partnership with Northampton County where we're equal partners. Right now, we're not equal.
I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what that means.
Let me answer. So, yes, we want our independent as far as the finances.
So you would do all the money?
Correct.
If there was a problem with an audit?
Correct.
It's on you?
Correct.
If somebody's over budget or deficit, it's on you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry. I just wanted to be
No,
clear.
that's a fair question. That's good, so everyone knows where
Yeah.
we're coming from. To put in layman's terms, we want to be able to control our own destiny.
And so you,
Point blank.
let's say for an employee, an engineer.
Yes.
You would then like to come up with the number that you would pay the engineer?
Correct.
Which would be from your budget,
Correct.
but it would run through the county human resources? Or it sounds like you pretty much want to almost break away. And I'm not saying good or bad. I'm just trying to
yeah.
understand.
Correct.
Because I know boards, authorities, commissions, as Mr. Spadoni knows, it can get really
Absolutely,
involved and
yes.
complicated.
So there are different ways of doing it, and obviously, we can talk about different ways. The ways we have talked about some different options as far as the current staff, they would stay county employees.
Well, that's
Okay?
a big deal.
To us, we want to protect their pensions. Absolutely. Why wouldn't we? That's a big investment to them, big
Well, there's a lot
investment
of
to us.
ramifications.
Anyone new that we would hire would be under us, under the district, the independent district. Any other new ones. Now, the county employed ones, when they would retire or leave, the county would not replace them. Does that make,
I hear,
okay.
I'm listening, I'm listening.
So, yeah, no, I just
Hopefully
make.
I'm absorbing,
Yes.
but-
So that would be what we were after.
All
The
right.
engineer, the engineer is one of the best projects for you to see as far as, they charge, okay? The engineer actually makes us money.
Okay.
So even having a low figure makes no sense to me because the engineer is going to make you money.
No,
So for us, that's a no-brainer to have that kind of position, to create that
Many,
position.
many
have
years
that.
ago, I was on the Conservation Board, but that's another lifetime. But anyway, I just wanted to clarify what the big things here are, and that's what I wanted to get to
Correct.
for us, is you're hoping to have more independence, particularly with the finances.
Correct.
Because I think the employee part, I don't think your employees would want to give up
No.
the benefits of a county employment.
Correct.
Okay.
Especially the ones that are near to retirement. Yes, the newer ones, maybe they would want to come on board with ours because we possibly could pay them more than a government part of it. Until we sit and look at those numbers, I can't answer that completely straight, but that's where our vision is at.
You clarified it for me.
Yes.
Thank you
Yep.
very much.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Mr. Cusick and then Mr. Bennett.
Yeah, first of all, the fact that you're not getting timely financial reports doesn't surprise any of us here, because we experience the same issue.
And this sit in a meeting with John Mauser, we're getting
but-
frustrated is unique.
But
God bless
I
you.
want to go back to the engineer position. The Home Rule Charter allows council to set the salaries. Have you approached the Personnel Committee or anyone with regard to maybe increasing the salary? Because it's not unusual for us to be approached for putting or hiring someone at a higher step than what was anticipated. And this is the first time I've seen.
We spoke about that in our May meeting when we sat and met with Mr. Lamont and Charles also. As far as the engineer and the money parts, as far as that part of it.
Specifically, have you?
That was the part that we talked about. That was the only other
Okay,
place that we ever
you can
talked.
get the salary guide, you can say, look, we'd like to hire someone here, or you could list it as, it can be negotiated, you can come to council, and we can approve somebody at a higher salary. We have done that.
Okay.
So
duly noted, yeah.
So I guess my concern here is that you're saying that we can't hire anybody, and you've never come to us and said, we'd like to increase the salary. If you find the right candidate, I'm sure most of us would be willing to entertain raising the salary to something that's appropriate, given the person's level of experience.
Right.
So I think that needs to be clarified. Council can set the salary, okay?
Okay.
Secondly, if you can't hire someone, an individual, have you considered a firm to take that position and do that work? Because many townships do that.
I'm going to refer that to Mrs. Brooks, because
I can probably answer that question. Under the delegation agreement that the county district board has with the state, and that's different than just an MOU, because that's a legally binding agreement between us giving the responsibility of oversight of that program to the local entity, which is the district. The district is the only one that can administer that delegation. So there is no option to go to a firm. It has to be administered either by the district or by the state itself. Because there are a number of counties that don't have engineers under them. So what they have to do is all those permits that are going through for the specific position that would do is that post-construction stormwater we talked about earlier. That would go to the state. Our engineers would have to review it. The reason why it's the counties take on that position, it's not mandated by us, but it gives a more effective and efficient process of that permit through the system, because the county can then give their, what they call a record of decision to that permit, and that will be taken into account with the department to speed up that process. So that's one of the reasons why that is. But we do not allow for a third party to take on that responsibility, because we've trained the districts in order to do those things.
Okay, so you can't hire like Dewey Engineering and then
No.
designate one of the engineers on staff as your point person?
No, the engineering has to be directly with an employee of the district.
So
as part
you
of the
have to
delegation
fill
agreement.
this position with a qualified individual?
Correct, yes.
And what you need to do is find that person and determine what the salary would be, what salary would be necessary.
Yeah, based on, because under our delegation agreements, the post-construction is part of what we call the Chapter 102 delegation. That gives us the ability to work with the county conservation district to look at what we call MPDS permits and those types of things. And
Okay, I want to, specifically about this position, have you interviewed someone, made an offer, and had them decline?
I was not involved in it. That's the process of the district, so I'd have to ask the district on that.
Does anyone know? Have interviews been connected and conducted and have?
No one has ever applied for it.
No one has ever applied?
As far as what we were told, I believe in one meeting from our manager, there was 2 possibles that were looking into it, but either one didn't, I don't remember the specs of it, but they weren't even qualified or around. It was basically a moot point of bringing it up.
Okay.
And that was it. So there has been no one.
Has it been, sometimes you have to advertise in a specific engineering journal or?
So again, that's all on the county admin,
John,
as far as that part of it.
Would they apply to you, or would they go through HR?
In the
Would you even
future,
know?
if we would go
No,
independent?
I mean, right now.
Right now, it would be through
So
county.
you may not know if somebody applied, but they just decided not to.
Correct.
All right. I just
Correct.
wanted to be clear.
Yes. And back to your point, Mr. Cruz, as far as coming to council, I'll be the first, I was ignorant to a lot of this stuff. I didn't realize that. When we sat in the meeting back in May with county admin, we were in essence, that was the answer. So they weren't going to budge, so we didn't go anywhere else with it. And again, that's my ignorance for not knowing more. So, no
Well,
excuse,
I would-
but that's.
I would just finish up by
correct.
saying that if you find a qualified person, that the salary, that their experience warrants a higher salary, that should be brought to council
So-
in a way that can be negotiated. Because we have done it in the past. I'm not gonna name names,
No, no.
but I know there's several employees out there that we started at a higher rate than the base salary.
Correct.
So please keep that in mind.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. It's so duly noted on that. And the engineer to our staff is so important, not just for the actual work that they do, but for the picking of the brain. Hey, can you look at this? What do you think of this? And not having that engineer in that office for those staff members, it's huge. So.
I'm sorry.
No, that's it. I mean, we have a couple good schools in the area that produce a lot of engineers.
Oh,
So I
absolutely,
think you
yes,
can maybe,
yes.
Mr. Brown?
Just to follow up on the distinction you're making between county employee and then district employee, if you were to, as you say, transition county and then begin hiring directly at district, can you clarify, so in terms of pension, healthcare benefits, those incentives that employees need, the HR support, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes just in maintaining employees and so on and so forth. The district would take that accountability on itself and have to build out that
Yes.
infrastructure
Correct.
itself.
We would, correct, we would have to come up and offer our own.
Negotiate your own healthcare plan.
Correct.
You would go out and if you chose to
Yes.
provide a
We're-
pension or a retirement plan, you'd negotiate that.
We would
and
in
you'd take on
essence,
that whole infrastructure.
correct, we would in essence create our own business and have to take care of our own employees.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
And then even real quick, going back to the employees, the difference if we were able, a negotiation part of it, as far as the county employees versus our district employees, if it all would work out that way, we would actually reimburse the county for the county employees. So any of the county employees, we would actually reimburse all that.
More interested in the
Correct.
process and the
Right.
organizational infrastructure required to support,
Yes.
whether it be,
I believe by
10
law, we would
or
have to
20,
anyway, but
you know,
yes.
There's a lot that goes into that, and I wanted to get that
Yep.
distinction, and
Yes.
you did provide it, so thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Kiefer, is that the preference of the Conservation District, or is that a last resort? Because from my perspective, getting in the HR business and getting into the healthcare business, it's a lot of work that I couldn't imagine the Conservation District wanting to take on willingly. I can understand if that would be a last resort ultimatum that you would say, okay, that's what we're doing, but is that your goal? Is that where you want to be, where you guys are hiring all your own staff, or would you like to see hopefully an MOU set up where you have a little bit more autonomy, but still can benefit from the umbrella benefits of the county?
I'm going to answer, I would just like to be more control our own destiny, call our own shots, have our own employees, such like that. Still be able to work with the county, absolutely, in different aspects, 100%. Why would we want to sever those ties? That'd be stupid to try to do that. And I refer back to even the counties that have done this, that did go independent, they're thriving. Sometimes, yes, a few of them had to take a step back.
Can you attest to that?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Some of them had to take a step back, but other than that, they're thriving. They put more staff on.
Can I ask you
Yes,
a
go ahead.
Sure. So from what I've sat in a number of these meetings, and there's a lot of information, and I think my construction experience kind of gives me a little bit more insight as far as the daily work that the Conservation District does and what it's not doing without an engineer right now. But as far as the grant right and getting the money, how much money do you think Northampton County Conservation District is leaving on the table right now from not being able to grow greener grants and the dirt and gravel road grants that they're not applying for because of the lack of staff and the lack of abilities from what they're currently, I know that's a big question.
Yeah, that's.
Do you
that's
guys have
hard
an
to-
idea of what you think you're not taking advantage of?
I mean, from my understanding with the Growing Greener grants, it's been very difficult for the district to apply for anything due to the structure. And I mean, that's one of those things, those grants are allowed up to $500,000. That's this year.
And just for perspective, what is your typical, business a year? About $1 million or?
We're going to look at that in a few moments.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay?
I'm sorry if I'm getting, John,
Yeah,
just yell at me
Shane-
if I'm
No,
getting
no,
ahead.
John, it's very important that people ask questions immediately.
Yeah, Shane oversees
Yeah,
the.
I
Growing
oversee
Greener.
the Growing Greener Grant Program and also the 319 Grant Program, which is a federal grant. Normally what happens is the Conservation District applies for those grants. The Growing Greener, the max for them, it just changed this year, is $500,000 apiece. But you can apply for multiple grants every year, depending on the
Cap
work.
on how many you can apply
No.
for?
No, so I have some counties that are applying for 6, 7 grants that are in the range of $400,000, $250,000,
So
$400,000.
potentially, there could be millions of dollars left on
Yes.
if it was working to full capacity, if you had the staff that you desired. Obviously, that comes with the negative downside where you could have all this staff and you're not taking advantage of these grants, and the Conservation District could be losing money to the detriment of the county, which obviously that's what we are all probably thinking of the negative sides, but you don't see that as a possibility. You think if you have the grant writers and the staff there and the working bank account?
It really comes down to the projects that are being presented. What we do is we rank those grants based on the environmental benefit and those types of things. So depending on what type of work that the district puts together to basically establish those applications, they could be all funded, it could be partially funded, that type of thing. So I can't give you an exact number, but I can say there is that opportunity, because right now, because at the previous time, the district themselves did not have an EI number or a vendor number. So the county had to be the recipient for those. So if the district was looking to get a grant, they couldn't make the agreement because they didn't have those numbers to follow up on. And I believe that's kind of why the district made those changes in the past couple months, I believe, in order to look at those. And those are valuable numbers they have to have in order to go forward with those. As for the other delegated responsibilities, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, the district is responsible for the Chapter 102, which is the erosion sediment control, which includes the permits. They have the Growing Greener, which is actually what we consider a contract. So they have the contract with the State Conservation Commission. But there's those other different programs out there. I don't think nutrient management, which this county has, is also a delegation agreement. So under a delegation agreement, what happens is the legal oversight of that program, if there is, they're indemnified by our legal counsel. So if there's something that goes wrong, it doesn't come onto the county, it goes onto the legal counsel, as long as they follow the directions of those programs. So that's kind of just an overview of how we work with the state State Conservation Commission, the conservation districts, and that type of thing.
Thank you.
Okay?
So,
Well, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead. You're
No,
still
I
on
was
the
gonna say
floor.
thank you. Go ahead.
So in your experience, when people do make a choice to make a transition, how long does it usually take for a successful transition to occur?
I know you've had more
Because
experience.
I don't assume that this is tomorrow and done, and we're not
No,
looking at
no,
that.
no, no.
And I have another question after that, but I just want to have a sense of what you're talking
And
about.
I'll leave that up to Karen, but I do have some experience in some of the districts that I used to be in Kate's position in the region. So we had a couple of them that did that transition. The ones that I've looked at, I looked at nothing less than a year in those transitions. You can get some changeover in a 6-month period, but to make it a good transition, to be able to look at what are the benefits from both parties on how we might be able to do that.
Yeah, we've seen everything from several years ago, Berks County took an action that separated them within 90 days, which was a definite kind of shock to all of us, but it took a lot of rebuilding to get the district back. 6 months, it can be done. I know that Schuylkill County is looking, they've been talking about it for the better part of this year, and they're hoping to make a transition similar to what we've talked about today around January 1st of 2024. We've had districts that talked about it and planned it for a couple years. So 6 months to a year is probably ideal for making that kind of transition. So
then my other question is, and I just want to be cognizant of time, we're at 7:15, we've all been here it's pretty long, and we haven't even heard from any of the county administration at this point, but is there any opportunity for negotiation? Because I hear that there was a meeting in May, which we didn't even get into yet, and I don't know if we should do it tonight or not, but it sounds like May is the first point at which there was a real conflict or a real argument?
Probably a first
or-
Conversation.
conversation.
May I? take over,
Conversation,
Karen?
not conflict, but.
No, we had a conversation. We wanted to let county admin know where we were going. I gave them 63 slides. We talked mainly about financing. When you look at the MOU for giving the district reports, it basically says, we'll give you reports if they're required by the state quarterly. I need reports every month, okay? In order for the Conservation District to function, we need correct numbers every month, okay? We're willing to sit down with them. We're willing to sit down with you. I'm hoping that maybe next year, all of us in this room are going to be talking about cooperating, okay? That's where I'm coming from. Now, I'm going to skip over the slides. When Mr. Brown asked some great questions, he's saying, well, what about HR? What about all these benefits and stuff? The neat thing of it is, the state has a Pennsylvania Conservation District Association, okay? They do surveys. They help you with all this information. DEP is here to help the Conservation District. We're part of a team, okay? And here, they they give you guidelines. They do surveys every year. For an engineer, if you're hiring at the 25th percentile, meaning 25% of the people that are hired as engineers are below that spot, they're telling you you're going to lose talent, okay? Now, they also do average salaries for small, medium, and large. Look at the salary for the 25th percentile. It's over $80,000. The 50th percentile, where you have a good chance of holding on to a good person, especially if you have good benefits. And the county does have good benefits. I've been very critical tonight, but there are things that are being done right. And that's why I would like to make sure you understand we're willing to sit down and talk with anyone and have a one-to-one conversation as equals.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
And with all due respect, because you said the administrator, I'm sure they have a lot to say. This is a lot of information that some of us that are just seeing. Maybe we should pause this and pick it up at another, we're not going to solve anything tonight. So, I mean, as you said, we had a lot going on before we got here. We're getting a lot now so that we all can give this the proper attention and absorption rate it needs, it deserves. I don't know if it might be, I'm sure they still have a fair amount to say.
I could wrap it up quickly if you
But
want,
we still
Mr.
need to hear
Eckman.
from them.
Well, but
Yeah.
then you also have the administration. I mean, I'll sit here, it's part of my job, but I think we could be going till 9 o'clock.
Well, and I agree with you. I don't think we're going to solve anything. This was an opportunity to just start to hear what's happening. But I also think that if we had a conversation in May and now all of a sudden we're jumping to like disillusion, like I would hope that there would be opportunity for some resolution and some corrections if possible. So, I don't know if we want to hear, I think I should, let me let you finish, and then I'm going to ask Charles to come up for a
Okay,
minute.
I was going to say, if you want to let them respond, let them have time for what I said to develop their response, that's fine.
Just one
Go ahead, Karen.
question before he,
Yes.
here's a question I have. Do you have a brick and mortar building that you are in?
Yes, we're in the Greystone building, next to Graysdale.
That's a county-owned building?
Correct.
So if you.
Penn State is on the main level, farmland preservation is in the basement, and then we occupy the other floors.
Just the second floor.
Second floor, I'm sorry, yes. Parks used to be up at the top.
And how much more are we involved as the county standpoint? You know, what else are we furnishing for you?
We buy the cars, the vehicles out of the Clean Water Fund, out of our funds. They go into the county registration database, I believe. I'll let Charles clean that one up. I'm not 100% sure, but I do know we pay for them and then they go into the county parts. On the county, whatever you want to talk. Insurance, registrations, such like that.
There are certain
We
things
get IT support, and I'm drawing a blank on what else.
Electric, water, utilities.
Electric, yes, correct.
Postage. So there is a list of items that the county does provide at no cost.
John, you have to come up if you want to say that.
I realize that you
Microphone.
believe your voice carries, but it doesn't to the
Okay.
5 viewers at home.
Okay, the county does provide
In
a
perpetuity.
broad range of in-kind. Okay, we're talking, we don't pay rent, we don't pay heat, we don't pay water, we don't pay electric. They pay interest on the car, insurance on the cars that we do. They provide mailing, okay? They provide IT. And that's all good for part of a partnership, okay? That is good.
So that's one of the things you want to keep. You don't want to cut that umbilical cord.
The board has not made a final decision to be completely separate. They've talked about it. Anything that John, Jeff, or I say to you tonight, the board has to vote on it, okay? And the board has not made a definite decision. We want to split, we want nothing with them, okay? My personal opinion is, in my mind, and Jeffrey and I disagree, I would like to have a close partnership with Northampton County. If we can work out our differences, I'm willing to sit down because we're all here to serve our residents, okay? And just let me flip through the slides real quick.
I really have to stop you, and I'll tell
Yep,
you
that's
why.
good.
I want you
Shut
to
me.
I need you to send those slides to us so that we can take a look at them. Oh, we have. Sorry, I don't have my computer, had to be taken away to the IT fairies. But Charles, can we talk with you for just a minute?
She's got
May I
some.
say
go
one
ahead,
thing?
Karen.
I'll be real brief. So a few other districts that are independent in this area are Bucks, Lehigh, and Luzerne. Lehigh just went independent in 2010. The others have been independent for many years. They run very similar programs to Northampton County Conservation District, and they flourish. So they receive a lot of the same funding that Northampton County Conservation District does from the Commonwealth and through other programs. So that's one of the things that I just wanted to point out. And some receive a little bit of funding as like a line item in the county budget. Others receive no funding from their county or may receive some in-kind services. So there's a lot of different structures to the conservation districts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lori, question, just a context. The current MOU that's in effect expires January 2026. So you have 2.5 years left in the current MOU before you would so I assume that's the window. If you were to make a change and move out without anybody else's approval, you could make this transition technically over the next 2.5 years and not re-up an MOU with the county and create an infrastructure of your own if you chose to go that path. Am I oversimplifying it from a legal perspective, or?
No, to a point, yes, you are correct. We would be looking for some major revisions of the current because of the way everything is going right now, correct?
I'm just going from a practical perspective.
Yes, and the MOU can be changed at any point.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So, and real quick to Mr. Heckman's one other point, this is a lot. We even talked about this in some of our other meetings. For you guys, as far as, have you even ever heard of us before? I mean, you saw me back in April, and I mean no disrespect to it, but you saw me here and back in April for a citation that Tara gave us. But overall, have you ever really even heard of county conservation? You might have read it, but you have no idea. I mean, again, no disrespect, but you have no idea who we are or what we do. So this is a whole lot of, I can only imagine sitting there and what you're digesting, so. But I do thank you for doing it, though.
Sure.
Yes. Excuse me, Jeff. Charles and Brandon will, I think, clean up some of the mischaracterizations of what you just heard tonight, and I'll be very brief. And one of the mischaracterizations, I think, is when we had that meeting, I made a commitment in the budgetary process that we would raise this pay that we're paying for the engineer. I don't know if you heard that tonight, but that's not why I wanted to briefly speak before Charles and Brandon spoke to you with facts. You know, based on what I heard tonight, I would be absolutely willing to let them be completely independent. I wouldn't mind not paying their car insurance anymore, or providing a place to, have an office or their utility bills. I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind them getting them off our books, except this. I have a fear, especially in Northampton County, that the people who would really be cheered by them being completely independent would be the developers. Because, what does the conservation district really do that affects the overall economy? And that's permits. And you know how interested the developers are in the speed of their permits being turned around. And, economic development, job creation have been very important to me. You've heard me talk about it all the time, but I'm not in a hurry right now for any more development in Northampton County, especially, millions of square feet of warehousing. So, and you could disagree with me about that, and that's fine. And I would expect people to disagree with my point of view, but I'm not in a hurry. And that's one of my concerns about letting them go completely independent. So that was just my overall reflection on that. That's my concern about that. Charles and Brandon will directly deal with the facts that you heard tonight.
Wow. Good evening. First and foremost, the fact that they are under the Office of the Director of Administration is part of the administrative code. It is section 3.04 and it follows straight through that they are part of, and that has been the case for all time immemorial. So that's, since we've been a home rule charter, that's essentially been the case. A lot of this was a matter of putting them into conformity with the administrative code. There have been some issues with space, quite frankly. We just built them a new office. We took the old 911 center downstairs and we built a new conference room so that they could no longer, as they had been sharing their conference room for the last 30 years at Greystone with outside agencies, 4-H, Boy Scouts, and so on. To give them their own space, we built a new space downstairs for them, and we built them a new office to accommodate another employee because they don't have the room for another employee. Among the things that they don't have is, there's been a lot of discussion about the money, and there's been a lot of discussion about what they could do. They could set their own prices, they don't have the money to do that. In the last 20 years, they've only broken even 3 times. Northampton County has funded the Conservation District for 17 of those years to a cost of over $2.49 million, not counting the monies that are not considered when you consider rent, not counting any of the IT service they get or the infrastructure, the computers and so on. That comes through us. I do have for you because, if nothing, I always bring you guys something. When you ask what sort of services we provide, salaries, fringe benefits, miscellaneous communications, admin supplies and equipment, transportation, professional services, county tabulation and transfers. All of this is part of our, as you guys are well aware, of the cost allocation we have for all the services they get here. Indirect costs, building and equipment, auto insurance, public officials, liability insurance, property insurance, general liability insurance, public works, for the different maintenance items we provide for them, administrative services, fiscal affairs, procurement, planning control, fiscal affairs, revenue. I mean, it's all here when you look down to it, all the way down to even the services that county council provides for them when they address the many issues that come up for them. There were several things, and I, go ahead.
So I'm looking at the indirect costs.
Yes.
I'm assuming that's all of the items that you listed below the grand total indirect cost per?
Yeah, those are things that are not counted in, against this.
That you're not counting. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to see like where, so you don't have rent listed in here, you don't have
No.
any, you don't have those itemized out?
No.
Okay, thank you.
No, the auto insurance is not part of this. To do a deep dive like that is a significant, but it gives you a small idea that all of those other items that we do provide to them come at a greater cost than even the $2.49 million.
But I think their argument is that, okay, you say they only made money or broke even 3 years out of that, the last, how many ever you said. Their argument is they're not able to fully take advantage of what the work they can do. And it almost seems like it's on purpose as to what Mr. McClure said, because he doesn't want to see more development. So why get an engineer when you don't want to see more
Well,
jobs?
first and foremost, the engineer does not help with development. He
Sure
also
does.
helps.
Literally,
Okay,
one of the
well-
projects that I'm working on is being held up because of the lack of an engineer in Northampton County.
But I can tell you that the forensic center, which is something that the county did directly, the engineer was the person who held our engineers to task in making certain that everything was done correctly. So it's
I'm
not,
making the argument, though, that an engineer wouldn't benefit the conservation.
I am making
right?
I'm sorry?
You're not making the argument that an engineer wouldn't benefit.
We've had the engineer for, I believe, 6 years. This is not something that has been there forever. It's something that is relatively new to us and part of that delegation agreement. So to imagine that this is something that just became a problem this year and had never been, it's not something that existed before. And it had been done in that manner before.
So we've had an engineer for 6 years.
Yes.
And now we don't. So it is an issue that they're definitely just dealing with right now. Would you agree with that?
It's a change in the way they operate, yes.
Okay, and that's why I think they would like a little bit more say in, having a little bit more say in how they run their jobs. Because one thing I will say, after meeting all of them, they are very, very good at what they do. They know what they're talking about. I can't pretend to know everything that they do or how they need to do what they do. But when they're saying, hey, we're leaving millions of dollars on the table because we don't have enough people.
That's a lie.
You think that's a lie?
That's a lie. It is a lie. The growing greener, all these other, many of the things that were said here tonight are exaggerations. But there's not millions of dollars left on the table, and they don't have the operating funds right now to pay for all of the people that they want to hire. We are still responsible to make sure that the money is there, that in their current MOU, they're responsible to go after all the grants, and we assist them in that.
I agree that, especially as the MOU, the way everything's set up now, the county is 100% responsible, should have a say, should have an equal partnership. But they don't feel like it's equal, and they feel like they're being told what would work for them by people that don't know what they're talking about.
I served on the board for 4 years myself.
So do you understand?
I do. That's one of the benefits that
Understand
Mr.
how
McClure
many
has in
grants
this.
that they could be writing for the Grow Greener and the Dirt and Gravel Road?
Okay, the Dirt and Gravel Road, again, is one of those things, that's a grand misrepresentation. We see this all the time as at the county, and specifically county council. Townships are not applying for the grants. We get 5 or 6 townships that do this. So to imagine that we're going to spend millions of dollars with townships not coming forward with dirt and gravel roads that need attention, it's just not going to happen. It's one of those things that it could, if all the townships who have dirt and gravel roads came forward and started to ask for help or seek help, just like many of the other things that we offer. If you think about all the different grants that county council parcels out to townships and how frequently people get upset that some townships are asking for everything and some people never ask because they don't ask. So it's not,
I don't want to take any longer. I don't want to take any longer and drag this out, but when I'm being asked to hold two opinions of equal value. One of the DEP and the people that are doing the job, and then the other of the administration that is looking over all of these other departments. I understand you have a lot going on.
No, we focus very clearly on what needs to be
You're
done.
contradicting the people, and I know a lot of these people personally.
I handed you the
I'm not gonna put
financials.
flyers to their faces, and that's what you're saying. You're saying that
Okay.
they're grossly misrepresenting
Yes,
facts and figures or numbers that they say are hard numbers.
yes.
Okay.
My question is, like, I understand all this, and I understand that there's a big difference of opinion. And I believe you, and I agree that they could not cut loose today and function the way that they hope that they would. My question is, what about some of the smaller items that they're asking for? And what about some of the, what they're alluding to as some financial mistakes, or like giving the wrong numbers for things? Because it seems very simple and very correctable, and I'm not sure what, because obviously we've worked with them before, and have they, I don't know, this is the first we've ever dived as deep as we are in this issue, but they've had these reports for years. Why now are they saying, this was wrong, and this number was wrong, and this number was wrong? Because again, it's, your numbers make sense to you, the way you present them to us, but the way they need them for their report is different than the way that you have them potentially accounted for. So how, is that at all able to be reconciled?
There are two things. That one, I would just have to say, because Brandon is doing his very best impersonation of Darth Vader, I'm going to let him answer most of those questions. But there is a new chairman and a new treasurer. That's, you guys honored Lynn Stauffer not too long ago, and that was, he had handled that role for the last, I believe, 30-some-odd years. But as far as the finances, we did discuss that at length on, and we were given a 60-slide presentation, 30 of which were based on a premise that was not accurate. But Brandon will explain that because he.
But my question wasn't answered. Are you going to answer my question?
No, I said that. Brandon's going to answer because he's
Okay.
doing his best Darth Vader impersonation.
No, but I just, because it seems simple to me, or it seems like correctable. Is it not correctable?
The biggest thing is that they were reading our reports incorrectly. So our financial system accounts for every penny. As you can, I believe the report you were given has it to the penny. Every single grant is accounted for to the penny. We have reports in our system that the Conservation District has access to run themselves. They don't need to request it from Fiscal Affairs. Everything is to the penny.
But if I were going to write a grant, and I've done this before, when I have to write a grant and I need to get that kind of information, I'm going to come to you, and I'm going to ask you, because I want to make sure I do it right. I want to make sure my grant's accepted. I want to make sure my reporting's accepted, and I'm going to say, Brandon, did I do this right? Can we check my numbers? And I'm coming to you, because you're holding the book.
And when Dean filed the first quarter report for dirt and gravel roads and low volume roads, he called me, and I sent him the report that I had to make sure it tied with his numbers. We went back and forth with the state to make sure that they were good, and they were happy with our financial report.
But apparently somebody wasn't, so where's the disconnect? And wait, so is Dion now the person responsible for filing those reports and doing those in his role as
Yes,
manager?
as the district
So he's the
manager.
person that has to do all those reporting forms?
He fills them out on an online portal, and that gets submitted directly to the state, at least for dirt and gravel road
So
and
is
low volume.
this potentially a learning curve issue? Because he's fairly new in this role, correct?
When was it?
2 years?
2 years.
Or is it just a, oops, this one time? Like, I mean, again, I don't.
Possible.
I think one of the things that was brought, when they were talking about what was missing, there was an inversion between two of the interest-bearing accounts, an accounting issue where someone put the, okay, I thought you were trying to tell me something. An accounting issue that it was inverted and it was corrected when it was found for the interest being posted.
And Brandon, we are holding their money in an interest-bearing account?
Yeah, so just to be, sorry, there we go. So just to be clear, every grant, the majority of grants that we get from the state and the federal government require interest. those grant agreements, generally they say account, not bank account specifically. If we had a bank account for every single grant, we would have hundreds of bank accounts. It would be completely untenable. The Conservation District's money, with the exception of Act 13, because their grant specifically says needs to be in its own bank account, that one is in its own bank account. Everything else is accounted for in common, and there are GL accounts that accounts for that money specifically. Interest is allocated quarterly. They get their interest. Depending on when he runs the report, yeah, it may not show yet, but our books close annually. We have the entire year to book that interest because it's not sitting in a separate bank account.
Wait, I thought you said it was.
No, Act 13. All their other funds are in common. I'm
Where's
sorry.
that one held? What bank?
Fulton, 90% of our bank accounts are at Fulton Bank.
So what, but again, is this able to be fixed? I'm asking him, don't you interfere. You sit down,
I have
Bucky.
explained.
You sit down.
All right, so
We never get to hear from Brandon. I'm enjoying this.
at that May 10th meeting, so Mr. Mauser alluded to inaccurate reporting. Not true. Mr. Mauser was referring to budgetary fund balance. So and I've then explained it to him 2 or 3 more times. So some of the issue that we're having is that as I try to explain things to them, they're digging their heels in on their original interpretation of our numbers. I have tried to explain to him how our financial system works repeatedly. I can't control his understanding of it.
I don't know if that's the answer to my question. I hear you. I'll give it to you in a minute. But like, you heard their presentation. I realize there's a lot of tension, but is it fixable? I mean, because I don't think we want to take action on this now. We have 2 years left in this agreement. Like, can we meet in the middle somewhere, given what you need to do for the county, for your accounting, and the information they need for their reports? Is there room to meet?
It's all there, so yeah, I guess there's somewhere to meet, but he has the information already. That's kind of the point I'm trying to make.
So is it an educational issue? Like, I need to educate you on how to read this?
Possibly, but
'Cause,
I've
you know, if it were me,
tried to do
it would
that.
take me a couple of times. I'm just going to be real.
So I have explained it to him multiple times.
Go ahead, Ron, and then.
Brandon, while we have, I'm glad, nice to see you. And I have a question for you. We usually had one of the troika, so it's nice to see you. But I might have a question for Charles, but this one's for you. Absorbing this, as I've said multiple times, and looking at the overview, or trying to, I think you are probably, I'm sure you are probably following the letter of the law and whatever regulations exist at the county level or state or whatever. I'm getting the sense of we would like, well, we don't have to. Is this a case where they're saying they'd like to see the numbers? I'm sure you're doing the quarterlies, they're getting that report. You've said that. But they would like to know what the numbers are on a monthly basis. Now, I'm sure there's no requirement for you to do that whatsoever, but is that doable, that they can see where they're at?
A financial report can be run at any time out of our system. There's no guarantee that it's going to have every single transaction in it because there's always timing delays to accruals and things of that nature.
I'm
but
trying to.
It's always available.
Yeah, all right. Well, I'm thinking, my point is, there would be no harm if, in fact, you decided, okay, if you want to see where you're standing each month, we can sort of we can offer you something, but we're not guaranteeing how accurate these numbers are.
Yeah, we have financial reports that we can run at any time, so yes.
All right, the other, and if that was really a big deal to them, would you do that? That's not your decision. Let me ask you this. I think some of this, and I know Mr. Cusick usually gets on this one, so I'm going to ask, and maybe it's not a clunky question. It seems like they're saying it makes sense. You can't have an account for everything. I get that. Except if the law says, like Act 13, you have to have a specific account. So you put all of this lumped into an account where other county money is.
Just to be clear, we're talking about a bank account.
Bank, yes,
Okay.
bank account. And you're gaining interest on that overall amount. I get the sense they're complaining that the amount of money that's theirs, I'm using the word theirs as a layman, theirs, that they're not really getting the benefit of their money's interest, that the county is getting to have the benefit of that interest, but then the time comes, they're not getting it, or they don't feel it's the right amount. And I'm sorry if the question is clunky, but I'm trying to interpret what I've heard tonight.
I understand your question entirely, and I think it's fair. And that has been, even when I served on the Conservation Board 20 years ago, that has always been a mindset that, it's their money, but they're forgetting that we spot them the money in the beginning. So if it is grant money, it is always kept within the grant funds. We can't, things that are allocated, we cannot move. But they are also, under the MOU, responsible to pursue whatever funding is possible to pay back the county to lessen the impact that they have on the county budget.
Charles, are you required, I'm sorry, but just to understand, are you required in any way, shape, or form to break out their interest? I mean.
Yes, no, yeah, on the grant items, absolutely, yes. And we do.
All right.
For those items that we have been given, yes, we do.
Okay, all right, well, thank you.
There was another grant account that was brought up on the May meeting, which we are waiting for the information to come to us, that we had asked for, we have not received yet.
Yeah, I was on, but that was in dark ages when I was.
Yeah, here in Northampton County, we follow the letter of all.
No, I know you do, but sometimes, I'm just wondering, is.
No, we don't miss anything unless it's not given to us.
I said, I know you guys do. And I'm looking at a lawyer back there. But that is the thing, though, that, is this really a matter of, forget the law for a second, is this a matter of respect and communication? Because, this is the first I'm hearing of it.
I don't imagine it really ever has. As it goes on, we just promoted someone from within to a position that they had requested last year.
Yeah.
We put it into the budget, we funded it, and we asked the president of the chairman, the president of their board to join us on the interviews to see who was going to get that position. The other positions that we also filled this year are done at the district manager level. But, for a principal position as the 102 coordinator, we played a role in that because there is a much larger responsibility. It's almost like a deputy director for that space.
What about the comments of the DEP representative?
There were a lot of different comments, so, I would say they made a good point about Lehigh County having recently gone independent. Lehigh County's Conservation District also gets some money from Lehigh County, but they take care of their MS4 plan. To date, in all of the years when we first got here, the MS4 plan had not been addressed, and we were stuck to scramble and get that done because it was our first year we had to do an MS4 plan. We had to hire an engineering firm because Conservation District was not interested in handling it. They were handling the education portion of it, and they didn't feel it was one of their things to do. Lehigh County's independent does their MS4 work. So things of that nature, it's not a matter of respect or not. We're providing them.
I thought somebody fell off their chair.
I thought I really surprised someone.
You're not going to.
We have provided them all of the services they could ever need. We worked with them to build a larger conference space for them. We worked with them to change the lighting in their offices, to improve the space that they work in. Before we got here, they had nothing but hand-me-down furniture in their offices. They now have the appropriate working environment they need, all the way down to, the LED lighting, improving the electric there. So, we provide all of these services and benefits to them. They didn't have to go out and find any candidates for their positions. We take care of that at the county for them. They're given the district manager, who is the person responsible for running the operation, for directing the staff. The district manager reviews all the job descriptions to make sure they're current and appropriate. We put them out for them. We score the people based on what they come out with, and we just hired 2 people. So one of the things.
You're a noted loquacious speaker, and I'm just saying.
When you're saying, what you're saying is a matter of respect, we're doing all of these things for them.
They apparently, I mean.
Don't appreciate them.
No, they don't agree.
Okay.
Yeah, but apparently there's a disagreement here.
Sure.
And I don't know who it's going to benefit. I mean, I don't know.
I negotiate.
I'm trying to understand. I'm not doubting the numbers you use, Brandon's numbers. I mean, I'll look. But I don't want to go out and say, well, they're all misrepresenting something. In their minds, they're not. But I'm not in a position to say they're wrong. You would know more than I do. So would Brandon. So would the executive. So would they. So I'm just asking, spitballing here.
Yeah, no, I
I'd love to see
appreciate
it
it.
resolved.
You're asking, is it not a partnership? Is it not? We're doing everything we can, and we're involving them in different parts of this. When Dean was hired, the president of the board at that time participated. As a matter of fact, I believe the treasurer as well at that time participated. So, this has been a long-running relationship. This flare-up goes back to, in one case, they believe that we're, holding their money or not giving them their money. And on the other part, it's relatively new. We hadn't had these issues under the previous president. So I can't speak to what has changed.
I'm done. Oh, yes, I'm finished. It's more ways than one.
Mr. Gafredo, and then.
I'm trying to wrap this up. Obviously, there's more to be said. And to de-escalate a little bit, I don't think they're miles apart, but I also don't think the bank account misrepresentation or the interest going one way or the other is the big sticking point here. I think the big sticking point is these people believe that they have the wherewithal to do their jobs to a certain degree with a certain level of independence. Is the administration willing to talk to them about having their own bank accounts so they can then run their books as they see fit and give them a leash to maybe extend out a little bit and see if they can grow? Maybe they're wrong. Maybe they can't do more grant money. Then you pull back on that leash. But if they do better, if they start making money with their if they get an engineer at the rate that they think is suitable, and that engineer works and does good for the conservation district, because yeah, where I lived, we do have a lot of low volume roads that need help, that need attention. I get it, not all, not Bethlehem and Easton, maybe not as much, but yeah, these people are needed, and there are projects that they're holding up because they aren't adequately staffed. I think their gripes are at least worthy of our attention and worthy of a sit-down and negotiation, because that's what they would like. Otherwise, they're saying that they do want to go independent, and I don't think that's good for anybody.
They had an engineer when they were, this is one of those things where I could go along and I would agree with you. I really would. But I'm looking at real numbers. They had an engineer and they didn't have the money. We paid for that. It's, to say that, when they had an engineer, everything would, if they had an engineer, if we paid an engineer more money.
Here's the single issue that's going to fix it. I don't think it's.
But I'm suggesting that when you say that, what are the combinations?
Letting them have an own bank account that they can control, so then they can then report to the DEP and say, hey, we're fulfilling our obligations as a conservation district to their satisfaction, the DEP satisfaction.
It's county money as well.
I understand that.
So why would?
Do you not believe that they're responsible and being able to handle that money?
I'm suggesting that there is no financial, we have financial people here. We have accountants to deal with everything that goes on in every department going across. They don't have accountants there. And to hand over county money to people who are part-time, I can't see, precisely what else is it?
Lack of respect for what they're doing. That's how they feel, and that's what they've directly.
Why is it that no one else has this lack of respect?
Say that again?
Why is it that no one else feels this lack of respect? There is no other county agency.
Everybody in the county and nobody
There is no other county, you'd be surprised as the administrator, I spend a lot of time talking to all of the other. So it is a full-time job.
I
You know,
hear you. I just think that,
I'm into my 12th hour today, so.
I don't think we are keying on the same issues here. I really.
Where else is it in Northampton County appropriate for a
Just
sub-agency?
ask the DEP rep, asked how many counties control their own books and how many are independent. We're in the minority. in
Yes, we are. No, I agree with, and I would not, for not 1 second would I like to tell you, the folks that work there are dedicated. They're fantastic. They are great employees. Everything that they've done, and even when I talked about our forensic center, I didn't blame them for, well, we didn't get this, or they held us to account appropriately. I think they do a remarkable job. That is not what's at question here.
What's that question here then?
Northampton County foots the bill for the employees.
Do they not
Northampton
bring
County,
in money?
I'm sorry?
Do they not bring in money? Like,
They
I get
don't?
it. It's not Northampton County taxpayer money that's being generated. They're getting grant money from the state that they're writing. And then
Okay,
they're doing
you're missing.
The problem that bothers me
mixing the
most
two
is that
things.
Mr. McClure said he doesn't want.
You're mixing two different things, and from a simply administrative thing, the grant money they get to hand out to these projects is direct funding to those projects. Most frequently, they do not come with administrative costs. So they don't pay for the people doing the work. They don't pay for the insurance. They don't pay for any of the other costs.
But I'm
So if
trying
they're
to
bringing
take them
in,
at their word when they say that they believe that they can handle those responsibilities.
I believe they can as well.
I can't blame them for thinking that at this point, but I would like to think cooler heads will prevail and everybody will find the reasoning why we are affiliated with the Conservation District, because it benefits the county. And I think it can better benefit the county if you let them do their jobs and you help them, aid them, give them the opportunity to do more. And yeah, I'm not talking about new desk chairs.
That is precisely what we've been doing. We fund everything that they need to do.
That is not what they're saying.
Okay, I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
I'm in the middle, but I sat in a couple meetings and they were at their wits' end. And then you'll come here and you'll disregard everything they're saying. I'm looking back there, I see them shaking their heads.
Okay.
And it's almost 8 o'clock. I got a 3-hour drive ahead of me. So I get it. We're not going to solve this tonight.
Had you been had I been sitting on this side, you would have saw me shaking my head straight through. So I don't know necessarily what that means.
So-
I'm actually providing
Can I just stop?
facts and figures.
I'm just going to stop you.
Sure.
Mr. Myers had a comment. You have a drive.
I'm done.
Did you want to make your comment?
I'm just going to say one thing. Their entire organization is budgeted every year, correct? And if all the money is not used up, they're not entitled to say it's their money. It
Yes,
goes
they
back
are.
into
The grant money they keep.
The grant money they keep.
Absolutely.
The budgeted money, they don't. It goes back into the,
There's, with very few exceptions, River Point, I believe, being one of them, just keeping up, and you have the numbers in front of you.
Yes.
They don't.
okay.
They don't. And there's really no other way to say that other than they don't. In the last 2 years, in the last 3 years, they only came in once.
And it's been a long,
No, I appreciate that.
and I don't want to pursue this much more. I think this may be a part 2, part 3, part 4, point 5, until we get to deal with this. And if, I don't know about anybody else, but we're going to lose this edge if we pursue this any further.
My concern is this. We asked them here so they could begin to outline their concerns.
Yes.
You have heard your concerns, and we can hear more from you at any time. I understand that. I want to say this thoughtfully at whatever hour it is. We seem to have a very new recent history of being somewhat contentious in partnerships outside of just county employees. And that is concerning to me. This seems like it's right here and easy corrections if we just all meet at the table and then everybody could be happy unless they decide to move away in 2 years. But I get that sense again of this negative undertone, and it's not helpful. You have the facts. When you spoke, I heard data. I heard that maybe there's a way for you to explain it. I heard maybe there's a way to do better, a little bit better, and maybe it's some understanding on their part. But I kind of start to hear this no and this absolutism, and I just don't think that helps anybody, because I don't want to see them leave the county. And if they decide in 2 years that they want to, that's fine. But I see other partnerships that we've had that it's like off with their heads and then they're gone, and I just don't want to see that continue. And so I hope that we could find a way, like, it's up to you all to have a meeting with them again, if you want to, and I think it's easily resolved. I don't understand why it devolved to this point in such a short amount of time. And I, so I don't know if we want to address this in a month or two and see if there's any negotiation. I had one more question for Karen, and I don't even know if I remember what it is, but is she still here? Did she drive too? I'm so sorry. We should buy you all dinner. I'm sorry. So you heard all this stuff, and you're supposed to be that neutral third party, I assume? Like,
Yeah, to some extent.
do other counties that have county contracts, affiliations like this, have this sort of problem with the accounting? Because I heard Brandon say, no, it's here, and maybe it's a misunderstanding. Is that a frequent occurrence sometimes?
It does happen from time to time. We do hear it from time to time. I mean, what we were told when we met with them in May was that we were using budget numbers and not actual fund balances. I know John had asked as treasurer for fund balances. And I know the Dirt and Gravel Road Program, when they were working on those quarterly reimbursement with the district, did not realize that those numbers that they were looking at were the budget numbers and not the fund balances. And when I told them that, they were very shocked that through all those discussions, no one ever said that. So there was some misunderstanding in that meeting. They told us that, but it also we didn't quite understand why we weren't getting actual fund balances instead of those, the budget numbers instead of the fund balances, so.
So if I make the assumption that you are a subject matter expert and a neutral third party, is this a resolvable issue realistically anywhere else in any other county? And could it potentially be resolved easily here?
I mean, I think it takes some sit down and negotiating and talking about what everybody wants and trying to work that out. So I'll also say that the funds that the Conservation District bring in are required to be used within each individual program and should not and cannot be taken by the county at the end of the year just without actual expenses related to individual programs. So.
Okay, thank you. I think we're at the end. The fork is in. Thank you very much, all of you, for your time and your patience. I'm sure we'll speak with you again.
Thank you.
Adjourned.
If I may, just so not anything here, the Conservation District has their August meeting.